So Nick,
Yes.
tell us who you are and what you do.
Should I be looking directly in here?
You can look into the camera if you want. You can look at me.
My name's Nicholas Schnier. I'm a composer for film and television. I've been at it for a little while, so I'm slowly becoming ancient.
As the submerging composer, they say,
Submerging.
right?
That's a good way of putting it. Submerging.
No longer emerging. So you're part of the Apprentice Mentor Program, if that's what they're still
Yes, I
calling
am.
it?
The Apprentice Mentorship Program is an excellent program, particularly for younger composers coming in, or people just starting off in the industry that have been musicians and other aspects of media, whatever. The relationship between composers, producers, directors, it's a relationship business. So I think some of the things you're not going to get out of school, it's baptism by fire, but just developing relationships, how to deal with producers, directors, spotting sessions.
Do you let people in on that kind of stuff, or are they actually
Absolutely.
flies on the wall?
When I can, yeah. If I'm working on a project and the producer's okay with having somebody else in the room. As far as what I get out of it, I think it's extremely important, as I said earlier. The SCGC is a great organization. We're better off having a collective voice. It's when it comes to the Apprentice Mentorship Program, it's something I try to pass along, and I just enjoy it. I also enjoy hearing about other people's creative processes.
So you get something out of it too?
I get something out of it, absolutely.
All right, Chris, so tell us who you are and what you do.
My name's Christien Ledroit. I'm a composer. Been writing music for a long time, but I'm fairly new to the world of film and TV. So new career branch, I would say. Maybe not an entirely new path, but a new branch. I'm mostly trying to learn about, as Nick was saying, the business and the relationship aspect of everything, right? One of the things that is really, I think, hard to show somebody, and I've heard from him, I've heard from you, I've heard from a lot of people, is how to find work and how to land those gigs. Every person I talk to, there's a different story about how they got into the business, which in some ways is really encouraging and is really, almost inspirational. But in other ways, it's really daunting. You know, if you want to be a mechanic, you go to college, you get your Class A, you do an apprenticeship for whatever it is, a year or whatever it is, and then you go and find a job. You hand your resume around, you find a job, right? If you want to be a doctor, you do your undergrad, you go to med school, you do your internship, you become a doctor. There are the paths to these careers. For this, there's no path. There's opportunity everywhere, but you can't see it.
Yeah.
And so, like I say, it's a double-edged sword. In a way, that's kind of cool because I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do this. You can make it your own way, which is really what I've done my entire life.
Right.
And everybody's had that lucky moment, and everybody's told me that lucky moment will come for you. Play your cards right, do good work, do it on time, build those relationships, and there's no reason why you can't build a career.
So what do you bring to the table as an apprentice? Or did you think very hard about what kind of things you would want to offer coming into that situation?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure, yeah. Nick was looking for maybe some violin stuff, which is my instrument. I'm like, hey, look, if you want me to record a couple things, I'm happy to do it, no
That's
problem.
awesome. Yeah.
Or a cello drum. I was joking about how I had to record some cello for a podcast I'm working on, and I play cello. Which is to say, I sort of make some scratch. Despite having played violin for 40 years, it doesn't all translate right over to cello. And it was kind of scratchy. But he said he needed some drones. I'm like, that I can do. I can give you a low drone. There's only so much you can screw that up, right? I'm happy. I would love to get, even like some assistant engineering or stuff like that. If there's a recording project going on, I like to get my fingers dirty, right?
Yeah.
That opportunity might not happen. There might be not the right timing. Whatever, that's fine. But I'd love to help out with some stuff like that.
Well, best of luck to both of you guys in your continuing journey.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ellis.
So about 12 years ago, I apprenticed with a composer in Toronto. It was a 6-week program, and I was basically deeply embedded in his studio for that time. It was an absolutely life-changing and eye-opening experience. I had been, really focused on being a composer for screen for I'd say about 3 years at that point, so I was still really new, very much a neophyte. So when I jumped into the studio, it was first and foremost a culture shock. The speed at which things moved, the kinds of things and the decisions that were being made and how quickly they had to be made, and the kind of pressures, deadlines, and the stakes. So just being able to be a fly on the wall was probably one of the greatest parts of that mentorship. First and foremost, it was being pushed into the deep end. I was suddenly doing things at a completely different level and things that I'd never even thought to do. I was writing charts for musicians for awards shows. I was running sessions and helping with musicians and doing setup in the studio. I was writing cues. I was doing spotting notes, whatever the result of the scribblings of every person in that room was, and trying to consolidate and make sense of everything, and then doing layups. All these things, technical things, creative things, standard things that I still do every single time I have a project. Something I learned really quickly, which was an incredibly valuable thing, was this feeling of getting pushed in the deep end. Even though it's terrifying, you just know you have to swim, especially when there's that much pressure. Not only is it your own reputation that's on the line, but it's also your mentors. A lot of what I ended up doing with my mentor was riding around in a car with him between his home and the studio, on the way to the music store, to do any number of different errands. And that's really where a lot of the magic happened. It was those discussions, those conversations, and hearing his insights and just sort of having him go off on a topic and talk about something at length, where I heard things that really just expanded my mind. The way that he thought about networking, the way he thought about how he would get a gig, the way he thought about what the opportunities that might be available to him and how to look for opportunities and how to prospect. These are things that I had never really thought of in quite that way, and it just took me from where I was and put me at a much different place. And it really changed my thinking about a lot of things. And beyond all the technical stuff, beyond learning about the studio and learning about client relations and all that kind of stuff, I think that was the most important thing I took away, was it just showed me what was actually possible, as opposed to the limited thinking that I had based on just 3 years in a business that I'd really not fully been in a professional way yet. If you're trying to reach a really big goal or trying to do something, if you can't imagine that it's possible, if you can't see someone else that's already done it and say, you know what, in a lot of ways I'm like them, but further back down the road, if you can't see yourself actually doing it and believe that it's possible, it's very hard to achieve that goal. But not all mentorships have to be like that either, though. These days you can have mentorships that are just someone that you have as a lifeline. You phone them up every once in a while and have conversations, ask questions. You need some guidance or some perspective from someone. And in that way, for everyone that's sort of watching this or thinking about getting a mentor themselves and wondering, how do I even do that? Well, it doesn't have to be that much of an ask. It can be something where you just reach out to them. Figure out what the value that you have to offer. What can you give them? And it can be any number of different creative things that you come up with. Something that is going to be useful to them and that is a little bit outside of the bounds. A lot of people think, well, I can write music and I can help them with cues. Guess what? Writing music for film is the fun part. Everything around it is the part that people don't want to do. When they finally get to write music, that's the part they want to do. So it's very unlikely that that's going to be the thing that they want to give up. So it's going to be something else probably that they'll be looking for. But it could be any number of different things. You could say, I do a bit of social media. I could help run your social media channel. I could help you, put out content that's really useful for building your brand and your reputation. You have to be creative about it and think about your own strengths and what you bring to the table. It could be your technical expertise. You're really great at Pro Tools. You're really great at studio stuff or miking or, any number of different things like that. And that might be useful to them. It doesn't have to be someone at the highest level. Start a few steps up from where you are, or someone who's mid-level. It doesn't have to be Hans Zimmer. You're probably not going to get to Hans Zimmer. And Hans Zimmer has his pick of the crowd of the most talented and experienced people. So really what you want to do is look for someone who is more at your level, who's going to be able to commit some time to you and will be interested in helping someone and bringing them up to the next level. So that brings me to the next part of what mentors get out of this whole thing. It is that amazing sense of satisfaction when you can take someone who you believe in, who you think has potential, you see something in them and you think this person could go far. and you help develop and bring them up to that level. And if they succeed, it gives you an amazing feeling just to have known that you maybe had a small part in that, and that the advice and encouragement and the insights that you were able to give that person had an impact. So that goes on both sides, right? Once you are at a certain level, you can think about almost immediately starting to mentor other people that are coming up beneath you. The things that I learned and experienced during my mentorship 12 years ago are still some of the most important and formative experiences of my career, and things I go back to again and again. Ways of thinking, perspectives, ideas, and approaches that I still look back on and go, that's still good stuff and so incredibly valuable. And I honestly don't know how I would have come to that information or those conclusions or those perspectives in any other way. So it really is one of the most key things in moving your career forward, and really moving things forward at a much more rapid pace than if you're trying to hack through and trying to figure out everything on your own. So I encourage you all to think about it. If you are someone who is coming up and you're looking for someone who might be a mentor or a guide to you, don't be intimidated and think that you can't just simply reach out to someone and ask them a question. It doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world. It doesn't mean let me come and sleep in your studio, be your sidekick for the next, several months. It can be, do you mind getting on the phone with me every once in a while and just helping guide me through, here's some of my work, here's what I'm good at, here's what I'd love to offer you, and see if their interest is piqued, The worst they can say is no. Anyways, I hope this has been helpful. Give me a like if you liked it, subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you guys in the next one.